The tires of
You know,
Rebecca
this trail
Morgan's silver
feels
Honda hummed
magical
against a mountain
today.
road as
It
she
really
climbed higher
does.
into the Blue Ridge Mountains. At 54 years old, she gripped the steering wheel tightly. Not from fear of the winding roads, but because she needed something solid to hold on to. It had been 4 months since she'd signed the divorce papers. 3 months since she'd retired from the architectural firm where she'd worked for 30 years, and exactly 3 weeks since her son, Michael, had moved to Seattle with his new wife. The house in Charlotte felt like a museum now, full of memories but devoid of life. "Mom, you need to get away," Michael had urged during their last phone call. "Go somewhere quiet, clear your head." "You haven't stopped moving since the divorce." Rebecca glanced at the GPS. 2 more miles to the Whispering Pines Inn. She'd found it almost randomly, scrolling through travel sites during one of her many sleepless nights. A sanctuary of peace and renewal, the description promised. That was exactly what she hadn't felt in years. The inn appeared at the end of a gravel driveway lined with tall pines. It was smaller than the photos suggested, a charming craftsman-style building with stone columns and wide porches, surrounded by wildflower gardens beginning their late summer bloom. Rebecca parked, grabbed her small suitcase. She'd learned to pack light after years of following her ex-husband on business trips, and walked toward the entrance. The lobby smelled of fresh pine and something baking. Cinnamon, maybe apple pie. There were local landscape paintings on the walls, comfortable leather chairs, and a stone fireplace that would probably be lit in the evenings. It felt welcoming in an authentic way. Nothing like the sterile chain hotels she knew too well. And then she saw her. Behind the rustic wooden check-in desk, a young woman with dark auburn hair pulled into a loose braid looked up from a tablet. Her eyes were striking, a deep green that seemed to catch the light from the windows. She wore a simple forest green cardigan over a cream blouse, and when she smiled at Rebecca, it was genuine, not the rehearsed, empty smile she'd seen from countless hotel staff over the years. "Good afternoon. Welcome to Whispering Pines," the woman said, her voice warm with a slight southern lilt. "You must be Rebecca Morgan?" "I am," Rebecca replied, surprised by a flutter of nervousness in her chest. This wasn't shyness. She'd presented million-dollar projects to demanding clients without breaking a sweat. This was something else, something unfamiliar. "I'm Maya Chen, front desk manager and assistant innkeeper. Your room is ready." Maya's fingers moved gracefully across the tablet screen. Rebecca noticed she wore no rings, though there was a delicate silver bracelet on her wrist. "Thank you. This place it's beautiful," Rebecca said, feeling oddly self-conscious. "Thank you so much. My aunt owns the inn. She's been running it for about 10 years. I moved here from Atlanta 2 years ago to help her out." Maya spoke with easy warmth. "It's become home in a way I never expected." Rebecca didn't know what to say. Small talk had never been her strength, especially lately. Maya was already reaching for an old-fashioned key attached to a wooden tag. "Room 12, 2nd floor. Best view in the house. You can see the valley and the mountains. Breakfast is served from 7 to 10 on the back porch." She gestured toward glass doors where Rebecca could see tables set with checkered cloths. "If you need anything at all, just let me know. I'm usually around." "Thank you," Rebecca said, taking the key. Their fingers brushed briefly, and Rebecca felt an unexpected warmth travel up her arm. As she climbed the creaking wooden stairs, Rebecca tried to make sense of what she'd just felt. She was exhausted. That was all. Emotionally drained. Any genuine kindness would affect her this way lately. Room 12 was perfect in its simplicity. A queen bed with a handmade quilt, a reading chair by the window, a small bathroom with vintage fixtures that still worked beautifully. Rebecca opened the window and breathed deeply. The mountain air was different here. Clean, crisp, carrying the scent of pine and wildflowers. She sank into the reading chair and, for the first time in months, felt her shoulders relax. Later, when she went down to the inn's small restaurant for dinner, Maya wasn't at the desk anymore. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair greeted her warmly and showed her to a window table. Rebecca ordered grilled trout and a glass of white wine. While she waited, she observed the other guests, an elderly couple celebrating something, 3 friends laughing over shared stories, a solo hiker studying a trail map. Everyone seemed comfortable in their own skin. When was the last time Rebecca had felt that way? The trout arrived perfectly seasoned and flaky. She ate slowly, savoring each bite. No rush. No need to make conversation or pretend interest in business talk. Just her, the food, and the peaceful murmur of other diners. When she returned to her room just after 9, Rebecca took a long shower, changed into comfortable pajamas, and settled into bed with a book she'd been trying to read for months. She managed 3 pages before falling asleep. She dreamed of green eyes and a smile that seemed to see right through her carefully constructed walls. Rebecca woke to birdsong. Disoriented for a moment, it took several seconds to remember where she was. The clock on the nightstand read 7:23 a.m. She hadn't slept past 6 in decades. Years of corporate discipline had programmed her body to wake at 5. She rose, feeling strangely rested. Morning light streamed through the window, painting the room in warm gold. After showering, she dressed in comfortable jeans and a soft blue sweater, clothes she rarely wore in Charlotte, where her closet was dominated by business suits and formal dresses. When she made her way downstairs for breakfast at 8, the back porch was bathed in sunlight, and there was Maya, arranging a table of fresh fruit and pastries, wearing dark jeans and a burgundy Henley that somehow made her green eyes even more striking. "Good morning," Maya said with that genuine smile again. "Sleep well." "Better than I expected," Rebecca admitted, approaching the buffet. The coffee smelled incredible. There were fresh baked muffins, local honey, cheese from nearby farms, and fruit that looked like it had been picked that morning. "I'm so glad. Sometimes we don't realize how much we needed quiet until we find it." Maya poured coffee into a ceramic mug and offered it to Rebecca. "Cream? Sugar? Just black. Thank you." Rebecca helped herself to fruit and a blueberry muffin, then settled at a table with a view of the valley. Maya continued her work, restocking items and wiping down surfaces, but there was a gracefulness to her movements that Rebecca found captivating. Other guests began arriving. Maya greeted each one warmly, asking about their plans, suggesting hiking trails or local attractions. She knew the area intimately and spoke about it with genuine passion. "Are you from around here originally?" Rebecca found herself asking when Maya passed by her table. "Not quite. I grew up in Atlanta, but my family's from this area. My grandmother was born just down the mountain. When my aunt needed help with the inn 2 years ago, I jumped at the chance. The city was wearing me down." Maya smiled with a hint of something wistful. "The mountains healed something I didn't even know was broken. I understand that," Rebecca said quietly. "Sometimes we carry weights we don't even notice until we finally put them down." Maya looked at her with real attention, as if she truly saw her. "Exactly. Are you here just for the weekend?" "Until Sunday, and please call me Rebecca. Mrs. Morgan makes me feel ancient." Maya laughed, a clear musical sound that made something shift in Rebecca's chest. "Only if you call me Maya. None of this Miss stuff. Deal." There was a moment of comfortable silence. Other guests chatted around them, but Rebecca felt like there was an invisible bubble surrounding her and Maya. "Do you have any plans for today?" Maya asked, clearing the neighboring table. "None. I came specifically to have no plans. That's the best way to enjoy the mountains. But if you'd like a suggestion, there's an easy trail that starts just behind the inn. Leads to an amazing overlook, about an hour's hike. Not difficult at all." "That sounds nice," Rebecca considered. She hadn't hiked for pleasure in years. "If you want company, I usually do that trail in the late afternoon when things slow down here. Around 5. Maya said this casually, but there was something in her eyes, a careful invitation, a tentative opening. Rebecca felt her heart skip. "I'd love the company." "Great. Meet you here at 5. 5 o'clock. Rebecca spent the rest of the morning exploring the inn's grounds. There was a small pond with a bench, strategically placed Adirondack chairs for contemplating the view, flower beds bursting with late summer color. She sat on one of the benches and simply existed. Didn't think about the divorce, didn't worry about her empty house, didn't feel guilty about not being productive. She just breathed. She had a light lunch in the restaurant, a Cobb salad and iced tea. Maya wasn't around, but the older woman from the previous evening, who introduced herself as Helen, Maya's aunt, served her with warm efficiency. Maya mentioned you two are hiking this afternoon, Helen said as she brought the salad. The Overlook Trail is beautiful this time of year. Perfect weather for it. Have you worked here long? Rebecca asked. I've owned the place for 10 years, bought it as a wreck and rebuilt it piece by piece. Helen smiled with pride. Maya's been my saving grace these past 2 years. Girl's got a good head on her shoulders and a heart bigger than these mountains. Rebecca thought about that as she ate. How many people truly saw her beyond her resume and accomplishments? In her marriage, had David really seen her? Had her colleagues? Even Michael, whom she loved deeply, knew her as mom and successful professional, but did he know the woman underneath? At exactly 5 o'clock, Rebecca stood at the inn's entrance wearing her hiking boots and carrying a water bottle. Maya appeared moments later, having changed into athletic leggings and a tank top under a light jacket. Ready? Maya asked, eyes bright with anticipation. Ready. The trail began just behind the inn, winding through pine and oak trees. The forest floor was covered with fallen needles and leaves that rustled underfoot. The afternoon was perfect. Warm sun filtered through branches, a gentle breeze, comfortable temperature. They walked in silence at first, but it was an easy silence. Rebecca noticed how Maya knew every turn of the path, how she'd point out a rare bird or interesting wildflower. Do you hike this trail often? Rebecca asked after about 15 minutes. At least 3 times a week. It's my therapy. Maya smiled. After I left Atlanta, I was on autopilot for a while. Work, sleep, work, sleep. Then one day I realized I was just existing, not living. How did you break out of that? Rebecca asked, genuinely curious. Started small. I went back to things I loved before life got complicated. Hiking, painting, reading, reconnected with old friends, stopped being afraid to do things alone, like going to movies or restaurants by myself. Maya glanced at Rebecca. What about you? What really brought you here? Rebecca hesitated. She wasn't one to open up to strangers. But Maya didn't feel like a stranger. There was something about her that invited honesty. I got divorced 4 months ago. Retired 3 months ago. My son got married and moved across the country 3 weeks ago. Suddenly, my entire life just evaporated. And I realized I don't know who I am when I'm not being a wife, mother, or architect. That's terrifying and liberating at the same time, Maya said softly. Mostly terrifying. Can I ask you something personal? Go ahead. Were you happy? In the marriage? Rebecca thought carefully before answering. I was. Comfortable. Secure. We were good partners, good parents, but happy? I don't think I ever stopped to ask myself that question. Happiness seemed like a luxury. Something that came after you fulfilled all your obligations. And now? Now, all the obligations are fulfilled. And I have no idea what to do with that. They reached the overlook, a clearing with a breathtaking panoramic view of the valley. Mountains layered in shades of green and blue stretched to the horizon. The setting sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. Oh my God, Rebecca breathed. This is why I come here, Maya said, standing beside her. It reminds me that the world is so much bigger than my problems, and so much more beautiful than I usually remember to notice. They stood there for long minutes, just watching. At some point, Rebecca felt Maya's hand brush against hers, a touch so light it could have been accidental. But when Rebecca looked at her, she knew it wasn't. Maya was looking at her with gentle intensity, an unasked question in those green eyes. Rebecca's heart raced. She should step back, should laugh it off and change the subject, should do anything except take Maya's hand in hers. Maya's hand was warm, slightly calloused from work, but it fit perfectly in hers. Rebecca, Maya began, her voice barely a whisper. I know, Rebecca said, though she wasn't entirely sure what she knew. Only that something was shifting, opening, blooming inside her like a flower that had waited through winter for spring. They stood hand in hand until the sun began to sink in earnest, and the temperature dropped, forcing them to head back. The return hike was different from the ascent. There was an energy between them now, an awareness that made every glance, every word, feel weighted with meaning. When they reached the inn, Maya turned to Rebecca at the entrance. Thank you for the company, she said. Thank you for inviting me. There was a pause. Maya seemed to want to say something more, but instead just smiled and headed inside. Rebecca climbed to her room with her heart pounding and her mind racing. She lay on the bed without changing clothes and stared at the ceiling. What was happening? She was 54 years old. She'd just ended a 30-year marriage to a man. Never in her entire life had she looked at another woman and felt what exactly? But deep down, in the most honest part of herself, Rebecca knew. Had known since the moment she saw Maya behind that desk. Recognition. As if a part of her that had been dormant her whole life had finally awakened. Rebecca didn't go down for dinner that night. She ordered a sandwich to her room and spent hours lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions coursing through her. At 11 p.m., she picked up her phone and almost called Michael. Almost. But what would she say? "Son, I think I'm feeling something for a woman I met yesterday." Michael had always been open-minded, had friends across the LGBTQ+ spectrum, but it was one thing to be supportive in theory, another to have your 54-year-old mother questioning her entire sexual orientation. Rebecca put the phone down. She wasn't ready for that conversation. She slept poorly, waking several times throughout the night. When she finally got up at 6 a.m., she had dark circles under her eyes and a dull headache. She took a cold shower to wake herself up, dressed, and went down for breakfast at 7:15, hoping to see Maya. But the person setting up the buffet was a young man with friendly eyes. "Morning. You must be Rebecca," he greeted cheerfully. "I'm Tyler. Maya had to run some errands in town this morning. She left everything ready before she took off." Rebecca felt a stab of disappointment she tried to hide. "Oh, I see. Thank you. Tyler." She served herself mechanically, coffee, fruit, a muffin, and sat at the same table as yesterday. But the food tasted bland. The view seemed less impressive. Everything felt diminished. Was Maya avoiding her? Did she regret that moment at the overlook? Rebecca spent the day trying to distract herself. She read a few pages of her book, walked the grounds, even attempted an afternoon nap. Nothing worked. Her mind kept returning to that moment. Their hands intertwined, Maya's gaze, the feeling of finally being in the right place. Around 4 in the afternoon, she was sitting on a bench by the pond when she heard footsteps behind her. "Mind if I sit?" Rebecca's heart jumped. Maya stood there, wearing the same jeans and burgundy Henley from that morning, as if she'd just gotten back. "Of course," Rebecca said, moving slightly to make room. Maya sat, but kept a respectful distance. For a long moment they were silent, watching dragonflies skim the pond's surface. "I'm sorry I disappeared today," Maya began. "I needed to. Think." "Me too. Rebecca, Maya took a deep breath. "I need to be honest with you, and with myself. What happened yesterday at the Overlook wasn't an accident. It wasn't a moment of confusion. I know. Since you walked through that door, I felt something. And it's not something I expected to feel. It's not something I've felt in a long time. Actually," Maya paused, choosing her words carefully, "I've never felt this for another woman before." "Neither have I," Rebecca admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Maya turned to look at her directly. "But I feel it, and I spent all day trying to rationalize it, telling myself it's crazy, that you're only here for the weekend, that I should maintain professional distance, that we should know better at our ages." Rebecca finished with a sad smile. "Yes, exactly that." Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. 29 years old. I thought I had myself figured out, you know? Thought I knew who I was, what I wanted, and then you walk in and turn everything upside down. Rebecca reached out, gently touching Maya's arm. "I spent 30 years married to a man. Had a son, built a career, lived what society considers a normal, successful life. And in all those years, on all those days, I never felt what I felt yesterday holding your hand." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Does it scare you?" "Terrifies me," Rebecca admitted. "But it also makes me feel alive for the first time in decades, and I don't know what to do with that." Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I loved someone once. My college boyfriend. We were together for 5 years. I thought we'd get married. Then he cheated. And I moved to Atlanta. Threw myself into work. Dated here and there, but never seriously. When I came here 2 years ago, I'd made peace with being alone. And now I'm feeling it again. But it's different. It's more intense? More frightening? I can't explain it. Because it's with a woman? Rebecca asked gently. Maybe. Or maybe because I'm older now. I know the value of a real connection. I know how rare it is to find someone who really sees you. Maya turned fully toward Rebecca. And you see me. I don't know how in such a short time, but you see me. And you see me, Rebecca echoed. They sat looking at each other, the world around them fading away. Rebecca could hear her own heartbeat, felt the warmth radiating from Maya even with the distance between them. Rebecca, you're leaving tomorrow. One more day. Maya's voice trembled, and I don't want to waste the time we have with fear or denial, but I also don't want to pressure you or make you feel, stay with me tonight, Rebecca said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Not for just to talk, to get to know you, to understand this part of myself that's waking up. Can we do that? Maya nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. Yes, we can. They had dinner together in the restaurant, but at a more private corner table. They talked about everything. Childhood, abandoned dreams, regrets, small and large joys. Maya spoke about discovering her college boyfriend's infidelity, about the 2 years of therapy that helped her heal. Rebecca talked about her marriage that slowly withered, about the guilt of feeling relief at the divorce, about the sensation of having lived someone else's life. My therapist once asked me if I was living or just existing, Maya shared while they sipped red wine. The question annoyed me at the time, seemed presumptuous. But she was right. I was just going through the motions, checking off items on an invisible obligation list. And now? Rebecca asked. Now I'm trying to live. It's harder than it sounds. Really living means risking, feeling, being vulnerable. Maya looked at Rebecca intently. You make me vulnerable. You make me vulnerable too. They kissed slowly, exploring, learning each other. It didn't go beyond kisses and gentle touches, but it was deeply intimate in a way Rebecca had never experienced. Stay again, Rebecca asked when the early morning hours arrived, and Maya stayed. Sunday dawned with rain. A fine, persistent rain that painted the valley gray and left the air smelling of wet earth. Rebecca woke before Maya, watching the rain through the window. It was her last day. Tomorrow she'd return to Charlotte, to her empty house, to her life as a newly retired divorcee. She'd return as a different person than the one who'd arrived. Maya stirred in bed, waking slowly. When she saw Rebecca at the window, she got up and wrapped her arms around her from behind, resting her chin on Rebecca's shoulder. What are you thinking? She murmured. About how I don't want to leave. Then don't. Rebecca laughed without humor. If only it were that simple. It can be. You don't have a job keeping you in Charlotte. No husband. Your son lives in Seattle. What's really holding you there? My entire life. My house, my friends, everything I've built. And is that more important than being happy? Rebecca turned in Maya's arms. That's not fair to ask. Why not? Because we met 3 days ago. 3 days, Maya. People don't uproot their entire lives for someone they met 3 days ago. Don't they? Maya stepped back slightly. Rebecca, I know it's crazy. I know it's too fast, too scary, but don't you feel it? This thing between us isn't something small. It's not a passing infatuation. What if it is? What if we go back to our real lives and realize this was just a fantasy? A moment outside reality? Is that what you think this is? Maya's voice held hurt. No. Rebecca ran her hands through her hair. I don't know what to think. I'm confused, scared, and my checkout is at noon. Maya took a deep breath, composing herself. Okay, let's do this. Let's have breakfast. Let's talk calmly. And let's be honest with each other about what we really want. Breakfast was tense. They sat together, but there was a space between them that hadn't existed before. Tyler noticed and stayed quiet, giving them privacy. I need to tell you something, Maya began after a long silence. The inn isn't doing well financially. Actually, it's doing very badly. My aunt will probably have to sell in the next few months. Rebecca's eyes widened. What? But you never mentioned. Because I was ashamed. Because this inn is everything my aunt worked for. Because admitting we're losing it feels like admitting defeat. Maya looked at her hands. But the truth is we're struggling. The business is too big for my aunt to manage alone. And I'm still learning. We need a partner. Someone with a business mind, management experience. Someone like a retired architect who spent 30 years managing complex projects, Rebecca said softly. Maya looked at her hopefully. I wasn't. I'm not asking this out of self-interest, Rebecca, please believe me. But when you told me about your career, I thought about how someone with your skills could transform this place. Rebecca sat silent, processing. Part of her was excited by the possibility. A new project, a new challenge, a new life. The other part was terrified. I need to take a walk, she said, standing abruptly. Rebecca, I just need to think. Please. She grabbed an umbrella from the lobby and walked out into the rain. She wandered through the soaked gardens, then down the road leading to the inn, trying to organize her thoughts. Her phone rang. Michael. Hey, Mom. I've been missing you. How was the weekend? Rebecca took a deep breath. She needed perspective. She needed honesty. Michael, can I ask you something? Sure, Mom. What's up? How would you know if you're making the right decision? A big decision that could change everything? Is this about the trip? Did something happen? Yes. No. It's complicated. Mom, you're scaring me. Is everything okay? Rebecca stopped walking, looking at the misty landscape around her. I met someone. Oh, that's great. I knew you needed to get out. Is it someone from the area? Are you going to keep seeing them? Michael, I need to tell you something. And I need you to listen all the way through before you react, okay? Okay, Michael's voice became cautious. The person I met is a woman, and I think I'm falling in love with her. Silence on the other end. Silence that seemed to last forever. Mom, Michael finally said, his voice shaky. Are you telling me you're gay? I don't know what I am. I just know that when I'm with her, I feel more myself than I've ever felt. And that terrifies and excites me at the same time. Another silence. Then Michael laughed. A surprised but genuine laugh. Oh my God, Mom. When you decide to have a midlife crisis, you really go all in. Michael, please be serious. I am being serious. Mom, do you think I care if you're with a man or a woman? I just want you to be happy, and you've never, ever sounded as alive as you do right now. Rebecca felt tears mixing with the rain on her face. Really? Really? Tell me everything. What's she like? How did you meet? Is that what's making you confused? Rebecca told him everything. The inn, Maya, the 3 days, the implicit offer to start over here. Michael listened without interrupting. Mom, he said when she finished, you spent 30 years living the life everyone expected of you. Don't you think it's time to live the life you want? The one you choose? What if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? Mom, you're 54, not 94. You have savings, your health, good judgment. If it goes wrong, you start over again. But at least you tried. You've always been wiser than me, Rebecca said, smiling through tears. I learned from the best. Now go kiss your woman. When Rebecca hung up, she knew what she needed to do. She returned to the inn soaked but determined. Maya was in the lobby, pacing nervously. When she saw Rebecca, she rushed to her. You're drenched. Come on, you need to. Rebecca kissed her right there, in the middle of the lobby, not caring that Tyler was watching, or that other guests were around. When they separated, Maya was breathless. What? I want to stay, Rebecca said. Not forever, not yet. But I want to try. I want to see your financial books, understand the business, find out if I can really help, and I want to figure out us, for real. Are you sure? I'm terrified, but yes, I'm sure. Maya kissed her again, laughing and crying at the same time. When can you start? How about now? 3 months later, Rebecca sat in the inn's office, analyzing spreadsheets on her laptop. When she heard the front desk bell, she stood, stretching her back, still getting used to long hours in the chair again. It was a young couple checking in. Maya attended them with her warm smile, explaining about breakfast and hiking trails. Rebecca watched from a distance, still enchanted by the way Maya treated each guest as if they were special. Tyler passed by carrying luggage, gave her a knowing wink. In the past 3 months, Rebecca had moved to the mountains, sold her Charlotte house at a considerable profit, reorganized her life, and dove headfirst into the task of saving Whispering Pines Inn. It hadn't been easy. There were arguments about management, sleepless nights over bills, moments of doubt about whether she'd made the right decision. But there were also mornings waking up in Maya's arms, dinners on the porch watching sunsets, hikes discovering new corners of the mountains, the genuine joy of building something together. Helen had been surprised but supportive, welcoming Rebecca as both a business partner and as Maya's girlfriend, partner. They were still figuring out the labels. Michael had visited twice, bringing his wife. He loved Maya, loved the inn, and kept saying, "I told you so, Mom," with a satisfied smile. David sent a simple text, "Happy for you, really." The inn still had financial challenges, but Rebecca had already implemented several changes. A new website, partnerships with tourism agencies, strategic renovations that increased perceived value. Bookings were growing. "What are you thinking about?" Maya asked, appearing beside Rebecca after the young couple went upstairs. "About how strange life is. 3 months ago, I was driving up here thinking I just needed a weekend of rest. And you got a whole new life," Maya completed, intertwining their fingers. "I got you. You got yourself," Maya corrected gently. "I was just lucky enough to be here when you found yourself." Rebecca pulled her into a gentle kiss. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For waiting for me. For having the courage to risk with me. Always," Maya promised. "Now, come on. We need to review the restaurant menu before Tyler burns down the kitchen trying that new recipe." They laughed together, walking hand in hand through the inn that was now as much Rebecca's as it was Maya's and Helen's. Outside, the rain had stopped. A rainbow tentatively formed over the valley. Rebecca looked out the window and smiled. 54 years old. A lifetime lived in halves. And now, finally, the chance to live whole. It was never too late to start over. Never too late to be happy. Never too late to allow herself to love and be loved, truly.